Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody on the line. Thank you so much for joining us for this fantastic webinar that I'm really excited to be part of again with my colleagues from SAP, particularly Pete Graham, who's a perennial favorite here. So Pete, welcome to our webinar.
Thanks, John.
And
Welcome,
then, and thank you so much, Gerald and Volkmar, for dialing in from all the way from Germany for our webinar to talk a little bit about the cloud. We know that the world is moving towards cloud, and SAP is continuing to build out more and more in the cloud space. So we'll talk about that, particularly as it relates to revenue accounting. So Gerald and Volkmar, thank you. With that in mind, the agenda, we've welcomed everybody. Thank you all. Please do check everything out. We'll do a market point of view, focus on the cloud. Then we'll dive right into automated revenue management in the cloud. And I'm excited in part because we're going to address this in a different way. We're going to talk a little bit about scenarios and revenue scenarios. And I think everybody will find that really an interesting way to think about revenue accounting and think about what we're doing. And then we'll wrap it up. As always, you can reach out to us. As I was talking with the team here earlier, we do post these webinars. They'll be available for the first month, first few weeks on our website, and then we will post those over to our YouTube channel. We do have 273 videos available on a variety of subjects, and I would tell you probably half of those 273 have something to do with revenue accounting. So please feel free to go check those out. We'd love for you to subscribe and become a subscriber on YouTube, but you can also check them out in Apple, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. And do feel free, for those of you online, feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. If you have any questions specifically around that or any of the topics that we cover here. So right now we're going to transition. We're going to talk about the market point of view here on, focus on the cloud. And Pete, I'm going to ask you to kind of talk, you and Volkmar, we're going to do this kind of, fireside chat wise, but, as we see SAP, and I think the whole world is moving more to embracing the cloud, whether we think of it as the public cloud or the private cloud or whatever. Automated revenue management and SAP is really continuing to build that out in an amazing way, adding more and more capabilities and functionality to support our clients. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as we have shown here, the market for automated revenue management, is changing, but the fundamental challenges that our customers have stayed the same for a long time. Obviously, with anything as a service, that's kind of a new challenge. But if you just look at the general market, we have really a huge diversity. It's really a spectrum, right? We've got some customers, we had one roll out last month that literally is just doing about 100 contracts a month, obviously moderate complexity. And we have some other telcos that are doing literally tens of millions of contracts a month and probably have extremely high complexity. So in that sense, that part has been constant in the sense of we know these requirements, they're complicated, but we've been spending a lot of time automating and simplifying that, right, with our solutions since 2015. The cloud to us is really just another venue, right? It's another way that customers can consume the technology and the knowledge that we build up, right? So if you click on the slide a little bit, you see that we've got some different deployment options, and really we view these as just, trying to be more flexible or adaptable to customer needs, right? The accounting challenge doesn't change if I calculate it in a private cloud or in a public cloud. But it's just the way the customers can consume, right, our expertise and knowledge. So in this session, what we want to really do is just kind of focus on, we've seen a lot of momentum in the cloud, and just we want to focus on kind of the scenarios that we can tackle, and really that's the way we view it. We have this, call it a knowledge base and a toolbox, and we want our customers to be able to tap into that and we're trying to make that as consumable as possible in the cloud. And kind of the way we talk about it is in end-to-end scenarios, and so that's what we'll cover here shortly in terms of going through some examples. So
great. And Volkmar, Gerald, any comments, thoughts from you on that?
I think Pete hit already some of the key points, right? Automation and simplification. It doesn't matter if that is in a private cloud option or in a public cloud option. I think these key initiatives and targets remain for our customers, and we bring this also into our solution portfolio. That's certainly a very strong point. So
Yeah.
I would certainly agree to what Pete said earlier.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, we see this across industries. In fact, Niraj and I, my colleague, were meeting with SAP yesterday, talking about revenue accounting and BRIM, this new space and industry-wise. And the beauty of it is, it's across industries, and we have so many different applications that you can serve all of these companies that are beginning to evolve to subscription models. But today we'll focus on a couple of key scenarios. So. Pete, you want to talk about the fundamentals, and you and Volkmar, you guys want to talk a little bit about the fundamentals here of, let's form a baseline here on automated revenue management in the cloud.
Yeah, maybe I can start off, Pete.
Please do.
So what we try to bring here on this slide are indeed a few key points. We see more and more, especially when we go into the public cloud. And one key point, I think, is that traditionally, very often, we have been looking at certain components within an overall process. So usually you had your logistics expert, you had the guy who's dealing with receivables, and you had revenue recognition also as a dedicated component. And one key difference we see, especially when it comes to the public cloud, is to achieve the goal of simplification, automation. We have to look at it and understand much better revenue recognition from an end-to-end perspective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's from my perspective not really a point to talk about revenue accounting as a solution in the cloud. You have to think about what do we want to achieve in a certain process, from the sales to the revenue recognition into maybe the collections part. And that is very important, and you also see reflected when we look at the best practices we offer, especially in the public cloud. Yeah, so best practices usually follow this end-to-end methodology. And that is very, very important from my perspective to understand as a first step. Yeah, let's not talk about just revenue recognition, although here, of course, that's in the headline, automated revenue management. But let's really talk about what is the scenario we are in. And as a result, also you find we talk about project-based services. Right. Revenue recognition is important, and there usually we have POC scenarios, percentage of completion, and so on. Or we talk about sell from stock. Yeah, we talk about, of course, BRIM scenarios. That, but it's always coming from this end-to-end perspective. Hey. So that's the first point for me.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's understanding that this is revenue recognition more is part of a process. It's an entire process. Revenue recognition is a piece of that, right? There's the front end and the back end, and it all relates end to end to that. That's what I'm hearing, yes. Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now looking at this end-to-end process, what we are working on is really to look at where these process steps are best in. So, for instance, if you take traditionally the SD, the sales and distribution module, we have a ultra strong integration to logistics, right? With tracking deliveries and so on. That's one of the key points. However, when we deal more with digital assets, actually the logistics component is not that important. When we talk about digital asset subscriptions, it's probably more about how you can automate changes to these subscriptions, how you can maybe deal with usage and track these usages and bring them into our components. So there, usually we would actually not want to go into a sales and distribution module. You would rather look at what subscription billing offers. The same for projects. So this is a really important part to really understand this end-to-end process and see where the individual solutions are very strong and what the benefits are. As a result, also, we try to not squeeze in more functionality. We actually reduced certain functionality in certain areas, but brought that into other areas. So for instance, when you look at some of the scenarios, project-based services or project-based sales, you will see that this is all centered around projects and centered around POC methods. And this is where the solution is very strong and built out a lot of simplifications and benefits. So for instance, we have now a chance to go into real-time revenue recognition. This is what I mean with benefits and what we should embrace in this context. Yeah, so let's not squeeze that into maybe something we know from the good old on-premise world, but rather look at it from an end-to-end integration perspective and look at what really the benefits in these processes are, because there's a lot in the public cloud available where things simply have been done differently to help also to streamline certain processes.
Maybe you can, with that in mind, Volkmar and Gerald, maybe you can talk for a moment about that. People, it's the simplifications, best practices. Everybody uses that word. I'm not sure I'm a fan of best practices, but the idea of it's SAP and you guys have, even as a team, have really looked at the way companies are doing, let's say, revenue accounting and the overall process across many different organizations and distilled that down to here's fundamentally the ways people do it and in a quote best practices, or here's how organizations do it. How did you get to that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, Pete, do you want to take that, or?
Yeah, I mean, John, one comment is, SAP has been following the new standards, right, that have been in place for a couple of years, but we actually have been following them since 2002, right? So 20 years. So we track all these accounting standards, and then you might remember literally in 2010, we started a very serious project look, and we started a bunch of roll-in, right, discussions with customers, and we literally had what ended up being dozens and dozens of workshops around the world and hundreds of conversations. So we very quickly, plus we had an accounting, executive on our finance team that was also on the board, right, for the international standards. And so we had a lot of insights in this. So we had a very holistic 360-degree view of, the automated revenue management topic, the new items that were coming through in terms of the challenges, and we built a modern platform for that. And in the last couple of years, we extended that modern platform to the cloud. So that's kind of how I look at it, right? All of our, knowledge or experience, our own teams are using our own software, is all rolled in there, and we're constantly making it better and better. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a great answer, and that's I guess my perspective on that, or where I was coming from, was often you can hear from customers, oh, best practices, says who, right? And it's, well, SAP has interviewed and talked to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of customers, been doing this 20 years, sort of distilled it down to, here is a best practice. This is the way companies that are growing, companies that are really embracing change and simplification are doing it. And that was really the point of that. So great answer. So Volkmar, consume, SAP recently was recognized by Gartner as a leader in the cloud. I know that you guys from a revenue accounting have been recently recognized as leaders for revenue accounting, and all of this is beginning to come together. You're really trying to help provide customers with flexibility here for consumption, right?
Yeah, flexibility and also focus.
Focus,
Focus is quite important, because that's to the point I wanted to make earlier. I think focus means that SAP has started off with, of course, a number of industries in the public cloud. Professional services, very strong, and now adding, of course, more industries. And this is what I mean by focus. So functionality is not necessarily built in a very generic way, but in a very focused way on the certain business processes, and as a result also coming with all the simplifications. That is a very important part, because if we're just replicating what we know from the 40+ years working in this market, then we would obviously replicate quite a huge solution set, which of course also adds certain complexity to our customers, but certainly also to SAP. So focus for me in the public cloud really means in targeted solution for certain business scenarios, and building out these best practices, which is not only best practice content. There's a lot of content out there. I think in some of the follow-on slides we have some links to these best practices, but also building out dedicated functions specifically to the process, and cutting down process steps. A lot of scenarios are focusing on real-time revenue recognition where possible, where you have the individual transactions, because now it is possible. In the past, you had components, batch jobs that were running where reconciliation was necessary. With what is now built into the public cloud, and with the focus on certain industries and building out these best practices, it's really possible to also bring up the benefits in the dedicated solution. And as a result, of course, that is also recognized, as you pointed out, especially in the service industries.
Great. And then, as I know, we meet with you regularly. You guys are busy constantly updating and adding new functionality, improving functionality. I assume stay tuned means there's more coming, and because you're in the cloud, you can take advantage of that quickly, right?
Yeah, stay tuned means a few things. So stay tuned is, of course, one benefit of the public cloud is that we can deliver much faster than you were used to see that with our on-premise cycle. I think you all know the on-premise cycle usually is an annual cycle. I think sometimes, of course, there are feature packs available, but in general, it's an annual cycle, so it's quite lengthy. In the public cloud, speed is very important. So where we have customer feedback, we try to bring this into a continuous delivery cycle, and that is, of course, picking up. So it's is something which I guess will accelerate over the next quarters and maybe years, so that we get really into this continuous model. But that's one thing. But of course, on the other hand, also the business environment is changing. We traditionally talked to customers in product sales. Of course, we had a lot of customers dealing with professional services projects. We have customers in the service industries itself. But what we see, of course, as a general trend, is that customers are looking at new business models, turning a classical product sales more into a rental model, a subscription model, which comes, of course, with all the implications. Do you do you sell the product to your end customer, or do you keep it as an asset in your own context, in your own environment? Do you need to come up with a rateable business model? There's taxation topics around it. So all of that is a big change to our customers. And Of course, now both coming together, SAP in the public cloud being able to ship faster innovations, but on the other hand, also our customers asking for changes or seeing new business models coming up, that hopefully is something which will converge and help to ensure that we stay tuned to these new business models coming.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, because we talk often about the digital solutions economy, right, which is where exactly what you're getting at, where companies are embracing new business models regardless of what they did in the past. And blurring the lines is very interesting too, right, where you have all of these multiple offerings that might be in a single, I'll call it a single contract or a single offering, where you can have products, services, a usage and consumption model that, oh, by the way, might be offered either directly or through some form of a revenue sharing model, and requires that constant updates and flexibility, but in a way that allows change to happen through a set of best practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I may also comment this a little, because this stay tuned, this also touches the big benefits of the cloud, and also one of the reasons why SAP has cloud first strategy since a while. And when we develop the best practices, and also when we went into the cloud, we of course asked our customers what's really the pain point, where shall we sort of innovate. And one of the pain point is something which is not sort of so visible in kind of functions and features, but it is sort of the cost to implement a new business model and also maintain it and update it with the newest features. And this is exactly the cloud business model. Yeah? So once you are on a cloud business model, you can consume it easy, and you can benefit from incremental changes and updates and new features. And so it's stay tuned is also if you are on such a new business process in the cloud, you also sort of could watch or can watch out for some new changes and features where your business might benefit from, which might reflect also the newest trend in your area. And so also when I see all those points here on this slide, I see clearly the reflection of SAP strategy, cloud first. So all new innovations are going first to cloud, and this is paying off now. So we see really a great momentums that now people more and more understand. If I need to have a fast adoption to a new business model, if I need to sort of cut down my IT infrastructure costs, then cloud really offers great benefits. And we are really glad that also with automated revenue, we can now participate on that innovation. And it's an end-to-end process, so we are part of a bigger game. But I think we will touch in this session also on some of those processes where we already contribute and how we contribute.
Absolutely, it's a great point, Gerald. Thank you so much. That was awesome. So speaking of some new processes, why don't we just dive right in there? So one of them you have been mentioning, we're going to focus on it from a scenarios perspective, or an end-to-end perspective. Project-based services.
Right.
Volkmar, Gerald, talk to me a little bit about this.
Yeah, if I may also remind the audience maybe where we are coming from, and maybe you have a stronger footprint in the on-premise world. And with revenue recognition for project-based services, you usually use results analysis in order to have a matching principle and are able to comply also with the regulations. And results analysis is sort of a separate storage, and you had to settle then in the month and the data to COPA or also to FI to have the figures there. Now, this was, of course, something where we saw big benefits if we improve that in terms of an automated process. And so that was basically also the idea of event-based revenue recognition. So we, once we have this database, our our universal journal, we understood that out of that table, there is a big benefit to automate processes. And so event-based revenue recognition is directly using the data in our universal journal table, and so enabling our customers also with real-time insights of the work in progress, of the margin, the costs, and the revenues for a specific project. And so talking about specific industries, so we see especially professional services like consulting, audit, tax, business services using this approach. Now, the automation is now even in such a stage that you don't need to care from a business perspective. So what kind of tools are you using? Yeah. So this comes once you pick up our process for project-based services, you immediately have already everything you need in order to have the accounting right. You need, of course, to make a decision. Do we need a cost-based percentage of completion method? Do we need a completed contract method or a revenue-based percentage of completion? Do we have time and expenses? And this is easily built in, derived from some data in the project with your customer. And so also a sales or the project is automatically created once you go into such a contract with project-based services with a customer. And so the accounting is done in a way that, for example, a cost-based percentage of completion, once you get a confirmation, time confirmation from a consultant or anyone who is working on this project, then based on the planned revenue, based on the planned costs, you derive the percentage of completion and recognize then the costs or accrued costs against revenue adjustment. And so you have an immediate insight. So this is done real time, directly with posting of the time confirmation. You immediately get the event-based revenue recognition posting, and you're able now to understand where you are within your project, including also the margin.
Wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I guess this is already touching that immediately you could simulate already the direct and important project KPIs. And this is really the favorite process of our customers. And so a lot of automation is really happening. And so from the slide which Volkmar earlier explained, so where you could then see that revenue recognition is just part of an integrated process. You only need to make up a decision of the accounting, so the type of accounting, and then basically much of the implementation is sort of done, and you are ready to use then this service.
Got it. So all of the, so if I think of, you know, some of the projects we've worked on and some of these projects in the past where you had to focus on integration, you had to look at, you know, I have project systems that I'm running for a project and I'm doing results analysis and I'm making a whole bunch of different decisions around, am I doing it cost-based or is it milestone-based or fixed? And there was work that had to be done. What I'm hearing is SAP, you guys have really gone in and looked at the end-to-end process and said, if you're managing a project-based service in which, you know, I'm accumulating costs and those costs trigger whether it's a margin plus or they trigger your ability to recognize revenue on your project, all of that is now integrated. It's all part of the same end-to-end process. So it happens, you know, pretty much automatically. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Again, when I just think what kind of steps are required if you have such a customer project, you want to collect costs and revenues, you need to take care that the matching principle between costs and revenues is sort of considered. You need to take care that all the different database storages are sort of synchronized and in balance, basically. So all that sort of is gone, and largely or to some extent, of course, that we unified already our database tables, but also that in cloud automation is really key. And so any kind of manual step which can be automated, we really went with our customers into this journey and sort of got rid of many of those additional steps. So I mean, I heard the word simplification a little, but simplification also in a very positive sense, that it's more like automation or streamlining of some of those steps, and where there is really big benefit if you use that process.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of streamlining too. It's also the simplification just from, you know, the mental process of the end-to-end process and configuring and setting up. You've done a lot of work to make that easy too, right?
Exactly. So a lot of our 50-year knowledge went into that. What can be done, what can be streamlined, and of course we constantly also talk with customers, incorporating also the feedback here. And so thanks to the uplift also in this area, we think we are on a good journey, and so we are quite happy to go this path.
I'm really impressed. I know, you know, we've been working with you guys for a long time now, and this is just great automation. It's a great process. And by the way, I really love the graphics. The graphical representations, I think, are something that customers have been asking for a long time, and the idea to tie this all together in a clean graphical representation is I think you guys have done a lot of work there too, right?
Exactly. I mean, user experience, this was key since a long time, but now with cloud, user experience is more important than ever. Yeah. So so streamlining also is a way how you organize data, how you present that, because this really gives a great benefit and makes you decisions easier once the data are displayed in a much clearer way. And so a lot of our efforts also goes into a clear structure of the process and on the data presented on the UI.
Got it. And of course, customers have some flexibility in terms of what they want to see and move it around so that they can optimize their work processes too, right, Carol?
Yes, they can also adjust the settings, and yeah, they also could pick up a different theme and any kind of other options you get with cloud.
Great. All right, Carol, thank you. Volkmar, Pete, any thoughts before we move to the next scenario?
I mean, I would just like to mention that it's just, this one, it is integrated, right? There's some benefits of the real-time nature, which is, hallmark of our S/4HANA and Universal Journal capabilities on S/4HANA. Also, when folks get the slide, they can get more details on that link. That link brings them out to a best practices website that has a lot more details on the end-to-end scenario.
Yep, great. All right, so we've been talking about, and this is near and dear to my heart, of course, is BRIM scenarios. We call them BRIM, or third-party order billing management and the integration of revenue recognition there, contract-based revenue recognition. Certainly as we continue to see more of these organizations who are evolving towards solutions-based, consumption-based scenarios, and new companies that want to just jump right into the cloud, this is going to be, I think, a huge growth opportunity for all of us. Why don't you guys spend a little, tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Volkmar wants to jump in, I mean, to me, this is a really great example of how, there are different ways that customers can manage the subscription billing, and in this case, it's really a third party, right? So with having a flexible platform, there's a way to get third party information into the core accounting engine and then calculate the accounting.
Yes, absolutely. I think it goes along the line that we offer revenue recognition functionality along the scenarios we see. And so Gerald spoke about project-based services and how we do certain scenarios differently, and have simplified many areas there. There's other scenarios such as the sell from stock scenario, or if you go into the engineer to orders processes. And in all these areas in the public cloud, we did not simply want to copy or replicate what we have available in on-premise, because we know that this is of course ultra strong, but also it adds some complexity. We try to really streamline these scenarios, and where we saw the benefits of course then a more sophisticated revenue recognition solution is especially in the BRIM scenarios. So this is around subscriptions, but also in the integration to what we call third-party order and billing management system. So we recognize that there are providers out there, and that we simply have to be flexible to pick these items up. And this was also a sweet spot for what we refer to as revenue accounting in the on-premise stack. So we very often have the question, okay, where is revenue accounting in the public cloud? And the answer to that is yes, it is there with all its strength, streamlined. So we of course do not offer every single extension point. We really focus on those areas that are most relevant to our customers, but we offer revenue accounting only for those scenarios where we see the benefits, and we offer it specifically with the Fiori UIs, with the disclosure capabilities, we have seen most relevant to our customers. So also there, kind of a simplification, yeah, and a streamlining based, of course, on the strength we had or have available also in the on-premise track. And as a result, of course, you find the reviewing and processing capabilities, the revenue allocation options, linked and manual POBs, revenue schedule, contract combinations, all of that, what you know, being available, yeah, with, of course, now the openness to integrate with BRIM, with subscription billing, for instance, or with any other solutions through the APIs, you know. And as I mentioned before, being having this available in the public cloud, of course, we have now also the option to, of course, deliver faster than on-premise cycles, so that's quite important. And of course, we also want to make use of that as we get customer requests in. Yeah, so in short, revenue accounting is definitely also available in the public cloud. We just refer to it as contract-based revenue recognition because we have the revenue contract with its POBs as the center of the whole solution. That's why we refer to it as contract-based revenue recognition, but we open it up for where we see most use to it. We don't want to open it up for let's say a sell from stock scenario, for instance, because as I said earlier, the strong point of our SD component in the public cloud is usually the logistics part. And in logistics, in product sales, what we learn from our customers is that very often they have more controlling focus and a focus on the matching principle between cost and revenue, maybe a focus on shipping and Incoterms, and all of that can be very easily done with what is available as the integration process. So in that case, for instance, advising our customers to use RA, revenue accounting, as you know it from on-premise, would have been a huge overhead to our customers, right, and also to SAP, right? So again, streamlining, simplifying, automating where possible, finding ways to do things better and faster in a way to ship innovations faster to our customers. That's a very fundamental point I believe is very important when we look at the public cloud. Yeah.
That's a great point, Volkmar. And you know, this one I have to say, when I first opened up, when we've been talking over the past week or so about this webinar, and I opened this one up, I have to say I was really excited by it because, as you know, our heavy focus is, you know, we've been doing RAR with you now for, oh gosh, 9-10 years, right? And the availability of this core functionality for many clients who we begin to see emerging in the cloud, they want to go public cloud, but they have these subscriptions and they have some of these contract-based revenue recognition challenges. To have this in the cloud, I think, is going to be a game changer, and is something that, you know, a lot of these emerging companies are really going to want to take advantage of. And I'm very excited to you know, be working with you guys and to work on, you know, positioning this in the marketplace, because I think it's a great, I really actually think it's a game changer, honestly. I think it's awesome. So great. Anything else? Now, we do have some other scenarios. We didn't have the time. We have a whole bunch of other scenarios that we'll send in the deck as an appendix, so folks can link to those scenarios. There's a list of additional information and materials. In wrapping up, you know, I'll kind of start with just asking, you know, each of you, if you had one message to share with our audience here today, a takeaway, what would that be? And we'll kind of go in I was going to say in reverse alphabetical order. So Volkmar, we're going to start with Volkmar Zahn, Z for Zahn. So Volkmar, what would you say you want people to walk away with?
Usually I'm the last one, so you.
See, I surprised you.
It took me by surprise.
We're taking a cloud approach. We're turning things on its head. There you go.
Yeah, my key takeaway would be really because we talked about cloud, but really the focus of this session was around the public cloud, S/4HANA Cloud, what we offer there. And for me, it's really important that you embrace and understand really the benefits S/4HANA Cloud provides, rather than looking at the old world, the on-premise world with all its complexity. And this would be for me the key message. Look at the end-to-end process, and see where the benefits are, the simplifications, because they are there for a good reason. We did this because we know that sometimes running a IT system can be a pain, and we want to address that pain. And you see a lot of that reflected in the solution.
We do, yeah, and just the added functionality over the past couple of years has been fantastic. Gerald, you're not that far behind with W. So.
Yes, thank you, John. Well, I also would like to pick up the same point like Volkmar, maybe more encouraging also our audience to even go the first next step to the clouds, because I do see a big benefit for anyone moving to cloud. And so especially for those scenarios and processes we support, we even have a lot of additional scenarios and opportunities in the cloud. So like the SAP Analytics cloud, which gives you great insights from a kind reporting way. And we have seen also customers building up some Lighthouse cloud projects and using the SAC as a kind of platform to report across then different entities. And so there are really many new aspects where you could benefit from the cloud, and I would just encourage anyone to maybe have really look at those offerings.
That's great, thank you. That's well said. Pete, sorry, you're second to last today. You're usually first.
Hey, John, you've got F, so you've got the last.
I know. I get the last. Oh, I always get the last. I get the last statement anyway, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's just SAP has a lot of experience in automated revenue management, revenue accounting, revenue recognition, and we're bringing all that into the cloud, right? Private and public. And I think we're seeing a lot of momentum, right, in the public cloud in terms of not only the product, roadmap and portfolio that's coming to market and available to customers, but also the amount of customers consuming that. So to me, that's the takeaway: is take a close look at our solutions, and you're going to find that we have a lot of capabilities, and we can offer them in a lot of different ways, right? That customers can consume.
Yeah, I think my final first off, my final comments would be first one would be thank you to all three of you. Just phenomenal job as always, and it's a pleasure to speak with all of you. And I look forward to when things ease up a little bit more in COVID, and we can see each other face to face again soon. But just the functionality and the power that SAP and you guys have brought to revenue accounting and to these scenarios is great. I think it's absolutely something that SAP's momentum in the cloud is accelerating. It's not a straight line. It truly is, I think, accelerating, and any company should be considering the public cloud first. And they should also consider, and I'd be remiss, Pete, I think, and team, if I didn't say, not only should we be looking at the public cloud as the tools, but public cloud and RISE, and helping, just really focusing in on what SAP can bring to the table to help you focus on your business and improving your business. So thank you all. As I said, we will follow up with all of you. We'll send out, if anybody who wants to reach out to us and ask for the deck, I will share an amended version of the deck with some additional information in it on how you can learn more. Thank you, Gerald, Volkmar in particular, for staying up late if you will, past dinner time, if you will, for joining us and sharing your insights. And Pete, as always, it's an awesome partnership and we very much appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Carol and Volkmar.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everybody for joining here, and you make it a great day, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Bye-bye.